Hello, hello, my love. Happy Thursday. I am here today to support you all in the midst of this COVID quarantine by talking about control. So control is one of the core tenets that leads people to live with the habitual thoughts of codependency and perfectionism. And of course, our inner child, or something I talk about a lot, always comes into play when we're talking about control. So control is really tempting right now. I get it. The world feels more uncertain than ever, which is not true, right? Uncertainty is a fact of the human experience. And so the world feels uncertain right now because it's always uncertain. And for many of us who've lived with a certain degree of certainty, of feeling comfort in the world, knowing where our next meal is coming from, knowing we'll always get to live indoors, right? Having those thoughts as the core basis for our lives. This moment, this pandemic, this quarantine, these questions can make life feel more uncertain. And it can make us want to attempt to control people, places, and things beyond our control. And I say beyond our control because one of the core things that I teach is that the only thing you can control, and this is a gift, is yourself. So you can control the way you think and you feel. You can choose the next right thing that you are going to do. You can be decisive in your life, and you can always choose how you are going to respond in this life. So that's what you can control, yourself. Nothing else in the world. And I think of that as such a gift, right? When I was younger, I thought it was my job, because I was living with codependent thinking and perfectionism, I thought it was my job to control the world. That is, to always be the one to make my parents happy, to make other relatives happy. It was my job to fix the family. It was my job to show up and solve people's problems for them, whether they asked me to or not. And usually they weren't even asking, right? I didn't know that I could mind my own business, right? That seems like almost funny to even say, but I didn't realize that it was okay and healthy and amazing to keep my focus for my life on myself, right? I felt that it was my job to try to control the world, the lived experience, the thinking and the feeling of everyone around me, to make things pleasant and nice. And that often meant swallowing back my truth, holding things back, not speaking up, not taking care of myself because I worried that someone else would think it was selfish or lazy or weird or a problem, right? And so I got to learn that this was evidence of, and part and parcel of, my own codependent and perfectionist thought habits. And the gift in here is that I don't have to do that. I don't have to control anything for anyone else, and it's not possible. The literal only thing I can control is my own thinking and the feeling that it creates in my body, the action that I take when I'm having that feeling, and therefore the result that I create for me, right? I can't control the result of my actions for the world, but I can control them for myself. So let's look at an example. So perhaps you've said something to someone with the intention of being loving or kind. You meant to give a compliment, but that other person tells you they got their feelings hurt, right? That they took that compliment as you meant it in a way that was hurtful, right? It touched on something tender for them, and they felt sad or angry or upset or disappointed. We can't ever control the way our words land. We do have to take responsibility. Well, I guess we don't have to, but I highly recommend, to be a loving person in the world, that you take responsibility for both your intention and the impact of your words, right? Because impact is super important. But my point is, you can't control it, right? You can do your best as a loving, kind human in this world and can apologize when that's what's requested, right? When you feel you've stepped out of your integrity. But seeking to control someone else's experience is not yours to even try to do. This has been coming up a lot for my life coaching clients and the people I love around COVID and social distancing. Here in New York, folks they've been following recommendations. I'm going to say más o menos, right? And I've been hearing a lot of this frustration, this upset, this desire to force other people to follow the requests of our CDC and the other powers that be around social distancing, wearing a face covering, etc. And while I very much agree with those recommendations, like 6 feet please, I cannot control anyone else and what they're going to do, their choices. They may not be in line with my beliefs, they may not be what I want people to be doing, but in seeking to control others, and here's the sinker here, cincher. Sometimes euphemisms in English or like popular sayings in English escape me because I grew up in Spanish, but the thing is that when you are seeking to control people, places, and things, that is, anything that is not you, in that moment, you are out of control. So that's the thing to recognize, right? In seeking, and like the Buddhists talk about grasping to control others. In that moment of seeking external control, you are out of control. You are out of the locus, the location of your own capacity to affect change, right? Because it has to start internally. Now, of course, I will caveat as a feminist, make trouble, right? Be a rabble rouser. I'm not saying we can't work to make change. We can't write to our representatives. We can't be part of campaigns, right? I'm not saying to not seek change, right? To take that individualistic stance of just saying like, oh, well, I can't change anything, so let's continue to destroy the planet. Let's continue to condemn Black and brown people to die. Let's do the things that are happening. That's fine. I can't control it. So not my point. My point is that you can't control the outcome, but you can speak to what you want to see in the world. You can set healthy boundaries. You can be an activist, right? You can be an activist and you can speak up for your own life and how you agree to be treated, right? You can set the boundary, you do X, I will do Y. So, for example, and I often use this example because it's a poignant one for me. In my relationship, my partner and I have 2 very important rules for fighting. 1, there will be no swearing at each other. We're New Yorkers. We swear like drunken sailors, just like casually, like pass the F and butter, right? But in a fight, we will not swear at each other. So no FUs and no name calling. And then I guess the 3rd is no raised voices. That's a powerful trigger for me and for my partner. So we don't do it. If you do X, I will do Y. If you raise your voice, I will walk out of the room. And even in that statement of boundaries, there's no attempt to control the other person. Because when we set boundaries, they're clearly for ourselves. You are setting your boundaries for you, vis-a-vis how someone else behaves in your space, right? If you do X, I will do Y. If you raise your voice at me during an argument or otherwise, right, I will walk out of the room. Easy peasy. No shame, no guilt, no blame, no stress. It's just what will happen. So it's not about I will control you. It's not about my saying to my partner, Ash, you will not yell at me. Because that's not mine to control. They are a human who gets to do whatever they want to do. And for the record, they don't raise their voice at me. They're not that mammal, thank goodness. Thank goodness, I wouldn't be in it if they were. But my point is, I get to control myself and what I choose to do at any given moment, and seeking to control someone else is always a dead-end road. It always leads to more stress, more anxiety, more tension, more overwhelm, and it reinforces codependency. Because in that moment of just seeking to control someone else, effectively the underlying script is often the way you feel and behave is linked to how I feel and behave. Don't get angry, because then I might get angry or upset or worried. Don't have fear. Don't tell me about fear, because then I'll take that on and I'll match you. I'll be with you in that fear, which is so different from compassion, being with someone in their feelings. It's that state of taking them in and not having those energetic boundaries to sit with someone and to simply hold space for them, but instead to take their feeling state, their emotions on, and to enmesh with them, right? To make them into what you are experiencing as your truth. And this often happens in adult lives because it happened in our childhoods. It happened in childhoods in which there was chaos, there was worry, things were not settled. And so you took one of two positions. And this can be really one of the core things that can lead to codependency. So either feeling like because things were so bananas, to put it lightly, right? You had to take on the role of happy maker, of jester, of hilarious, or perfectionist, right? I get straight A's and then my parents don't have to worry about me. I make the varsity team. I'm the lead in the show. I'm the head cheerleader. I'm the golden girl, right? Like I am, not like the Golden Girls, but like I am the golden child. I am the one that makes things feel okay in the household, and I don't cause trouble, and I'm quiet, and I'm over here just like doing my thing quietly so I don't get yelled at, and so you're not upset, don't be upset. I'm trying to control through this behavior, right? And I'm never, ever, ever blaming a child. I'm not like, oh, that child was being manipulative. Mon Dieu, it's a child, right? Developmentally, the goal is not to be manipulative. The goal is survival. The goal is to get through your childhood unscathed. And how beautiful is that, right? That child brain can figure that out, can learn to behave and think and feel and take on this persona of perfect in an attempt to control the situation and to control what's coming at them. I think it's genius. I think it is laudable. I think it is a thing to be celebrated wildly. And I know that it does not serve you as an adult to fill that role, right? To let that perfectionism, which is simply an attempt to control everything, swirl around in your brain. Keeps you from living your dreams, keeps you from meeting your goals, right? Because that pressure to always be perfect, oh, baby. Gosh, I got a wave of energy, right? It's just impossible to do. It's just not how this thing of life works, because perfect isn't a thing. Like controlling other people is an impossible dream, an impossible goal, and just leads to so much heartache. So the other role then that a child can take, and yes, there are 1,000 roles in the middle, but we're talking about these two extremes because they're relevant and because they're the ones I picked. So there's the perfect golden child, right? That perfectionist framing of codependency. And then there's also the framing of the scapegoat. So children can either be made into the scapegoat without their even realizing it. It's not necessarily a thing that they chose. Much like being the golden child can be something that's put on you, an identity that's superimposed on you in childhood. So in the absence of feeling as though you are able to be perfect, again, what even is that? The child psyche, right, that little sweet child can choose, forget about it. I can never measure up. I'm just not even going to try, and can go into that dorsal vagal kind of energy, which is the withdraw energy. And if you're hearing me say polyvagal nervous system stuff and you're like, wait, what? Listen to episode 61. Episode 61 of the polyvagal, of the Feminist Wellness Podcast, all about polyvagal theory. So you can learn more about that in so much nerdy detail. Okay, so that scapegoat child can either sink into dorsal vagal, which is like, I can't, I give up, I withdraw, finito, chiuso, done, right? Or they can also take on that persona, that personality, that choice. Although it's like, is it even a choice when it's a child, right? It's a survival technique. It's a survival pattern that's genius. So that can also come from wanting to sort of shift attention and focus away from, and I'm using the hugest air quotes, the problem parent, meaning the parent who is actively using or abusing alcohol, substances, has mental health concerns, is codependent or perfectionist themselves, like the identified problem parent. And so if dad is drunk on the sofa and then you are also getting in trouble, you are also not achieving in the way that's being asked of you or you wish was being asked of you, then the child's psyche can sort of take that on as a way to deflect blame, right? Without even realizing it. Like, look at me, I'm controlling this environment by saying, look at me, I'm the problem. Don't look at him. Leave him alone. Because the child brain is really profoundly focused on survival, right? Because it's dependent on its adults for food, shelter, clothing, money, survival, right? And our primitive brains, our reptilian or lizard brain, is really just focused on that. On like, how am I going to get through this day? How will I get enough calories to keep my Krebs cycle going and get enough metabolic energy so I can make thyroid hormone and sex hormones and digest and survive and live another day, right? And so what's really important for that child is that pure, simple survival. And children are so brilliant and will seek to control their experience of their environment any way they can. And those lessons continue on into adulthood as we grow into physical adults. But a part of us may remain in emotional childhood when we blame, shame, or guilt other people for what's happening in our lives, for our own emotional response to life on life's terms, to the neutral circumstances that make up the 1,000 moments of a human life. So my loves, I want to invite us to take a big deep breath in. Focus on the long, slow exhale. When you focus on the exhale and blow off more CO2 than you took in O2, oxygen, you're telling your ventral vagal system, you're telling your nervous system it's safe to go into ventral vagal. So when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling worked up, and these are heavy topics, so I just wanted to pause to breathe together for just a moment. And I want to go into saying, and yes, I'm looking at my notes. I want to go into for a little second the concept of true control versus false control. So true control is the control you have over yourself, over your thoughts, your feelings, your decisions, your outcomes, the results you create for yourself. False control is our attempt to control other people, places, things, strangers, right? And to really focus on the framing that if other people acted differently, I would feel differently. Have you ever thought that, right? Like, if only he would behave, then I wouldn't be so upset. If only she would do the dishes, then I wouldn't be so worried. Or maybe not worried, I wouldn't feel disrespected, right? But the truth is, it's never, ever, ever someone else's behavior that makes you feel anything. It is only your own thoughts in response to the circumstance, the neutral occurrence of their behavior and what they say, what they do in the world that leads you to think and then feel anything. So it doesn't matter if your partner's washing their hands 1,000 times as requested or not. You may still have the thought, well, they should wash their hands 1,001 times. Or if and that might make you feel frustrated. Or if your partner's like never washing their hands and you have the thought, oh my God, how are you not doing this? It's like the most basic thing right now. Then you may feel aggravated, right? And likewise, right? If your partner's washing their hands 1,000 times, you may feel like, right on, thank you. I feel respected. I feel supported. It's not the act of them doing anything. It's your thoughts and your feelings about it. So false control is when you tell the story in your own mind. If they behave differently, I could then feel differently. And that, my love, talk about giving your power away, right? You're literally saying your choices have the power to make me feel something. And that's not a choice I ever want you to make. because I want you to feel empowered to live an intentional life in which you recognize just how powerful your prefrontal cortex, the executive function part of your brain, is to support you in making decisions for yourself. So that's the concept of true control, when you seek to control your own thoughts, feelings, actions, and results, and false control, when we blame and shame others and think that our experience is dependent on them. And my loves, if you have any questions for me, anything you want me to speak to specifically, please do go ahead and type it in, and I'll take questions in just a little moment. The other point I wanted to make is that attempts at control can be a way to negate, to undermine, or to spiritually bypass the things in life that you don't like or that you feel are uncomfortable. Like if someone expressing an opinion makes you feel like squirmy inside or makes you feel uncomfortable, instead of sitting with that feeling, processing that feeling through maybe doing breath work about it or otherwise attending to yourself, that desire to control may lead you to want to shut it down, right? Like, don't say that about me. I'm not talking about a boundary here, right? Because there's a different energy, right? There's the energy of, please don't speak to me that way. And there's the energy of like, I don't want to hear it. Like, I don't want that in my sphere, right? That like pushing away energy. And that often comes from the discomfort of having a mirror raised, right? And not wanting to sit with it, not wanting to be with it, not wanting to ask, is there a kernel of truth in here that's actually making me uncomfortable? But instead, we try to sort of hop, skip over it and emotionally bypass it. But the thing is, you can't skip steps in healing. That's not how it works. You get to get comfortable with discomfort. And it's part of why we meditate, right? So you can get comfortable with discomfort and can learn that it's unlikely to kill you. Right? I've never heard of someone dying from the discomfort of sitting with a challenging thought or feeling, but we react to them like it's going to be the actual death of you to feel this feeling. And my beauty, I'm here to tell you that it won't be, and that your life can be so much richer and more beautiful with more growth if you strengthen that mental muscle of not of trying to control or grasp, but releasing and accepting and sitting with the discomfort versus trying to leapfrog over it, and just getting real with what's coming up in your physiology. Right? In that moment when you want to seek to control, to tell other people what to do, to try to change things that are unchangeable, right? To exert false control, you get to notice it, to pause, to breathe, and to ask yourself why. What is it? What inside you is seeking to control? One of the things I do a lot in my life coaching work is parts work. So to look at the part of your psyche that wants to control. So it could be an inner child, it could be a protector part, it could be Ursula the Sea Witch. Like, I don't know who it is for you, but there may be a part of you that wants to control the situation with the thought and the feeling that this will make you feel comfortable, safe, okay in the world, lovable in the world. You get to give that part of you so much love and to recognize that it's coming up. And in this family, we don't push those parts away because number one, science, like it literally doesn't work, right? The part you push away will just come back screaming all the louder. So I don't recommend it. Instead, I recommend tending and befriending. Getting ventral vagal with that part, even if it's screaming, try to control the world, right? Instead of reacting to it, you can respond to it. You can respond with love and care and gentleness and can say, sweet one, what's up? What are you seeking so hard to control here? Are you trying to keep me from having a feeling? Are you trying to protect me from what you see as danger, but it's just an email from my boss, right? What's up? What do you want and need? And that moment of getting real and getting loving and getting kind with it, you can make that connection that can last a lifetime, right? So you can go from being enemies, having friction with that part of you that wants to control, and instead you can shift into being loving allies and even accomplices in this world, right? Getting things done together. Because you can retrain that part to not like protect with this energy or the shut it down, stop, control energy. Instead, you can lovingly retrain that part to stand next to you and let you know that you need to set a boundary here. If you do X, I'll do Y. Easy peasy, right? All about you. True control, a focus on yourself and what you want and what you need for your own wellness. Okay, just thinking here. I made so many notes, my darlings. So, all right, awareness, setting boundaries. I do want to caveat for parents, folks with employees. Well, no, you can't control them either. Children, for folks who are managing children, particularly if a month and a half ago you did not homeschool and now you're a homeschooler full time. When children are very small, you do get to control their environment, right? It is your job literally to keep them safe once they hit that 6-month mark in particular and can all of a sudden roll over and then walk and then run. So that is just the one area where it's really important to recognize that it is your job to control the environment and you can't control them. I remember my pediatrics rotation back in my NP training at UCSF, nurse practitioner, University of California, San Francisco. The acronyms that you just know. One of the first things they taught us in pediatrics is parents are going to show up and they're going to say, I can't get him to eat, or why won't she poop? And those are the two things, like the main things that you can't control, particularly with a little kid, right? What goes in and what goes out. And it's such a good framing of the importance of bodily autonomy and remembering and holding dear that other mammals get to do with their bodies whatever they want to do. Their bodies, not yours. That's yours to do what you want with, but they get to do whatever they want with their bodies, and there's literally nothing you can do. I was also talking with a life coaching client this morning who got this really big tattoo right before quarantine, and her mom saw it this morning over Zoom and freaked out and was saying, I can't believe you did that. Why would you do that? So, you ruined your body or whatever. You're going to hate it when you're old. And it was funny, right? It's an interesting moment to recognize that we not only try to control this present moment, but we attempt to control the future and the past, right? So that statement is an attempt to say, I want to control what you already did, and I'm frustrated and angry that I cannot. So I'm going to attempt to make you feel bad about it, right? To guilt and shame you about a thing you already did with your human body. We also try to control the future, and that's evidenced as worrying and future tripping, right? Where we worry about what may come. And I did several episodes, episodes 43 and 44 of the Feminist Wellness Podcast, all about worrying and future tripping. And the most salient point that I want to bring to this conversation here today is that when you are worrying, when that is the feeling in your body is worry, the action you are taking, your verb, the thing you are doing in that moment is worrying. You're not taking action. You're not changing anything. You're not making your life or the lives of those you love, the world, the planet, you're not making anything better. You're simply worrying. That is the action that you are taking. Much like controlling, in that moment, all you are doing is attempting to control. You're literally not getting anything done. You're not improving anything in the world. And the only result, the only outcome you create for your life is more frustration, more stress, more tension, more anguish. Way, way, way back in episode 3, so well over a year ago, I talked about anxiety and how one of the root causes of anxiety is the holding of tension in our bodies. And so if anxiety is something you often feel, if it's a common sensation and you're commonly having the thought, I feel anxious, it can come out as I feel worried, it can come out, as frenetic movement, right? That going on up into sympathetic, that going up the vagal ladder into sympathetic. I want to invite you to pause and breathe and to ask yourself what you're grasping, what you're holding, where you're holding tension in your body. Check in with your shoulders. Are they up here? Is your jaw tight? Right? Is there a clenching at your throat chakra? Is your belly feel tense? Yeah, does your low back hurt because you've been holding yourself in? When we're seeking to control the world, this is the stance, right? This is the energetic stance of it. Or it's leaning forward, like a coming out of yourself, an attempt to grab hold and control the world. Okay, I need to shake that out of my body, right? When we are in that peaceful place of self-love, when we are in that space of focusing on true control of self and nothing else, when we are focused on getting and staying ventral vagal, which is that safe and secure, calm, connected place, our bodies are at ease. There's less tension, less holding. There is no physical health without mental health. There's no mental health without physical health. They are one and the same, my darling. Leaky boundaries, leaky gut. These things go together, right? Where there is tension and holding, there is not that flow that we want. Flow of thyroid hormones, right? Your hypothalamus talks to your pituitary, talks to your thyroid and tells it, make T4, which is the inactive thyroid molecule. When there is a flow state, when energy is flowing in your body, when glands are working as they should, that T4 flows into your gut. And if there's not leakiness there, if you have integrity to your boundaries, your energetic boundaries and the literal gut microbiome, that literal membrane boundary of your gut, that T4 gets converted into T3, activated in the periphery and in the gut, and then can free flow through your body, not meeting resistance, right? And I'm not talking about the mental resistance, which is not actually a frame or a phrasing I like. I've talked about it when I talk about the inner child, and I can do a whole live about it, but I'm talking about physical, cellular resistance, right? When there is tension and holding, there's not that free flow of chemicals, of sex hormones. Digestion is stopped up when you're not in ventral vagal, when you're up in sympathetic, or you're down in dorsal vagal in that collapse, immobilized state. And so the work is to pause, to breathe, awareness, acceptance, action, awareness. I'm holding tension in my body. I'm holding tension in my mind. I am seeking to control the uncontrollable. My goal here is false control. If he behaved differently, I will feel differently, which is just a story your brain offers you. It's not true or real. Maybe if he behaves differently, you'll think differently and create different feelings, but his behavior changes nothing for you, my love. Awareness. I'm tense, I'm tight, I'm seeking this external control, right? In these frameworks of codependency and perfectionism, I feel it is my job to hold everything together, fix the family, keep up appearances, right? Make things appear a certain way for everyone and everything. And I fear that I'll beat myself up, be mean to myself, if I don't keep it just so, if I don't get that external approval. So I need to control to try to support that goal. How exhausting. It's exhausting just to list it out and talk about it. So acceptance, right? Awareness that this is happening. Acceptance. And what I mean here is acceptance of the fact that it's happening. So what can be really, 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 really common is people sort of like bump up against it, and there's this friction, this sort of grinding energy of like, ugh, I don't want to have behaved that way. I don't want to have those thought patterns. I don't want to have come from codependency or a family with alcohol use or chaos or perfectionism, or I don't want it. And so we attempt to sort of push it away. And in that moment, you're fighting reality. You're attempting to control reality. And it's impossible, my babies. It is impossible. The past is the past. The facts are the facts. What happened, happened. You come from where you come. Cannot change it unless you have a time machine. In which case, like, let's redo 2020. But barring that... Oh, I crack myself up. Barring that, you cannot change the past. And so wishing it was different, hoping it was different, fighting against the facts of it, change, nada, mi amor, nada cambia, nothing changes. It just is what it is. So you can fight it. You can have friction with it. You can fight with the fact that you're feeling these feelings. You have these thoughts habitually in your head. That ain't gonna get you anywhere. What will get you somewhere beautiful, is accepting this truth. And journaling is so beautiful and helpful here, because it's one thing to have all these thoughts swirling in your head, but until you pause and get out a pen and paper, and like thumb journaling is fine, or typing, but pen to paper is really special because kinesthetically, right, it sends those signals into your brain. It's a good choice, somatically speaking. So we get cognitive distance when we journal, because your thoughts can just feel real. They can feel like the beliefs that they are. Understanding a belief is a thought you've thought over and over and over and over and over and over again until it feels like fact, until it's something you don't even question. So as you start to come into awareness of these moments, when you are seeking false control, you're seeking to grasp on to other people and make their choices for them or change their minds, accept that you're doing it, write it out and get clarity on that. And from there, that's when you can take action. And that's the place from which you can use the thought work protocol that I teach. If you want to learn more about it, listen to the podcast, Feminist Wellness, subscribe, rate, and review. I'm supposed to say that every single time, but it actually is very helpful in getting the podcast to folks who wouldn't otherwise see it, or hear it rather. But tonight, Thursday night, April 23rd, what are even days? What are days even? But tonight at 7 p.m., so in just a few short hours, I am doing a free webinar. So totally free, totally available. Join us, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, New York time, because like what other time is there? I'm going to stop doing that fake New York accent. I'm not great at it. I'm better at Long Island and Rhode Island. My Boston's not bad. I'm not going to do my Irish, but it's pretty good. Anyway, so tonight, 7 p.m. New York City time, I'll be talking all about how to overcome codependency. I'll be teaching the thought work model that I teach in the podcast, going into some detail about how to use it to help you overcome codependency. And then I'm going to spill the beans all about my masterclass. So if you are a regular podcast listener, you've been hearing all about the masterclass like for months, because I've been building it for months. So it is a 6-month online course. I am so excited about it and keeping it really small and really intimate. And last I checked, it's a little over half full. So if you want a spot, get on my calendar now. And you can do that by going to victoriaalbina.com/masterclass. I should have, whenever I say should have, I'm like, that doesn't help me, Vic. But it would have been smart to pre-type that in. So I'm gonna put the links to webinar registration into the chat here. So if you go to webinar registration, man, it's so funny. perfectionism would have been freaking out that I was like taking a second and being quiet while I typed something, like not that long ago. But now I'm like, it's what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is fine because I'm fine with it. And the only thought about my behavior that matters is mine. So there you go. Isn't that cool? Gosh, it's so funny. Not that long ago, I would have probably gotten like this big cortisol rush from needing to pause to type something in and feeling like, oh, are people judging me? What are they thinking? The amazing part of thought work is it gives you those tools, right? To undo those old thoughts, those old habits that keep you so stuck. So you can just put new habits in there, right? Ones that honor your nervous system, because we are always polyvagal informed. Always, right? We always honor the fact that nervous system activation happens. And our goal is not to control the nervous system because you can't, because science, right? I've been in health and wellness for over 20 years. 20 years. Oh, wow. What is time anymore? It's like the 14th time I've said this today. What is time? It's actually a great question. But my point is, in my 20 years in health and wellness, I have learned so much, and I just totally lost my train of thought. Our physical health, our mental health, my darlings. I will refocus myself. So, my love, sorry, I was just reading a comment. Annie Lou writes, hearing you say you were thinking that, even though for me watching you do that was no big thing. Oh, yeah, right? It's amazing. One of the most important skills I've learned from thought work is to be my own watcher. So now it's almost like, in like a very healthy, loving, conscious, thoughtful way, it's like there's two of me in my brain, in addition to like the inner village of inner child, inner adolescent, all the protector parts, Ursula the Sea Witch, which is generally a compliment in my world, just not in Ursula's case. But I paused. Will someone give me some thumbs up so that I know we are reconnected, please? Maybe Elia, I see you on there. I'll just keep talking. But so, right, I've learned and practiced how to be my own watcher and how to watch the thoughts that run, like back when there was a Times Square, back when there was a New York with people. Oh, okay. Thanks for the thumbs up, my darlings. There's like that ticker that runs in Times Square that's like constantly shooting information, right, about the stock market. I now see those thoughts rolling through my head, trying to control how I'm showing up in the world, trying to control what other people think of me, trying to control like my presentation, like as though I could control anyone else's thoughts. And so now with the work that I've done, choosing self-love, compassion, surrender, release, gentleness, and doing the thought work protocol every single day without fail, I'm able to see those thoughts just like move through my brain, just an offering. And I used to believe them, right? I used to think that my thoughts were fact. And now I know that they're not, right? It's just a historical, habitual offering from my brain. I don't have to believe it. And I say that with love, right? Like it's, I'm not ever attempting to emotionally or spiritually bypass or do any kind of BS like thought stopping. I allow all the thoughts. I just choose the ones that I want to act on, right? That I want to like take into my consciousness and have a feeling about that will drive me to take action, create a result in my life. So my brain just reminded me what I was talking about before the connection paused, which was the nervous system. In my work, we always, 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 always honor the nervous system and understand that we can have activations, right? We can get whoosh, sent into sympathetic overdrive, which is that fight or flight freak out, or collapse into dorsal vagus, which is immobilization, freeze response. And by connecting to our glimmers, which is the topic of this week's episode of the Feminist Wellness Podcast, we can work to bring ourselves back, right back into ventral vagal. But what we don't ever do is try to control the sympathetic or the dorsal place. Instead, we respond to them. We don't react. We respond with love and gentleness and gently coax ourselves with love, with sweetness, with tenderness back into ventral vagal, into safe and social connected. All right, my angels, I want to honor and respect your time. I'm glad that was helpful. Thank you. Someone's typing out very helpful. I'm glad that's helpful. I'm really excited to see you all tonight. Head on over to victoriaalbina.com/webinar registration. Tried to make that one easy for you. Register for the webinar if you're not registered already. If you can't make it tonight at 7 p.m., you have something else going on, or it's like 3 a.m. for you in your time zone, all good. I'll definitely be sending a replay to everyone, so that will be fun. And if you've heard about the masterclass and you're like, I just want to join, like I want in, head on over to victoriaalbina.com/masterclass. And put your name and your information in, and I'll be sending you all the information you need to schedule an appointment with me, and we can talk about it. We can talk about the class, everything it entails, see if it's a slam dunk good fit for you. That's all my sports words. I'm out of them. Well, I know rugby words, but American sports words. All right, so my love, that's it from me. This has been a delight. Tomorrow I will be back here to talk with you at 3 p.m. I'll put up one of those little countdowny thingies so you don't miss it. And I will see you here. And I'm really excited. And if there's topics you want me to talk about, I'll be going live tomorrow and then all the week next week. So send in your topics. I love talking. I'm talking about control because like 5 or 6 different people ask me to talk about it. So I listen to you. I love you. I want to support you in every way I know how. I feel so astonishingly lucky, astonished and lucky and grateful to have the privilege of education and training and every other privilege I've had, that I've gotten to heal in all these ways, and that I've learned all this smarty pants stuff about science and the nervous system and psychology and life coaching, and I really want to share it and pay it forward. All right, my beauties. Bien. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. I will see you at 7 p.m. And I'm so excited for you to join us for the masterclass. All right. Be well, my beauty. Take care. You are loved.